Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to do another door build. This time we're going to use pocket holes. We're going to use a pocket hole jig. So for those of you that don't have one, they're not super expensive to get. I have the one made by Kreg, Kreg, but there's other versions. Other companies have come up with them as well. So check it out. But so we're gonna do. It's gonna look very similar to the last door that we did. We're just gonna use pocket holes, so we're gonna go through this pretty quick. So stay tuned. All right, so if you watched my last video when I did the other door build, we talked about a lot of the things, a lot of the prep, stuff like that. I'm not gonna go into like super detail, but we'll do kind of a brief overview. So here you go. All right, so just like any project, kind of starts with a plan. I went ahead and took my measurements of my opening. It is the finished opening. It's not a rough opening. So went ahead and got my measurements, drew up my plan, got what materials I was going to need, all that kind of stuff, and so we're ready to go. Obviously my measurements for my door are going to be different than measurements for your door. Your openings could be slightly different than the ones that I built, so just keep that in mind. So the first thing we're going to do to get started, we got to start cutting stuff to length.
So here you really want to make sure that you get everything sanded, nice and smooth. You don't want any splinters or anything like that going on. A lot of people take this step for granted. Sometimes people don't sand stuff at all and they just, put it together, but you got to get those rough spots out of there. Plus when you're using, lumber from like a lumber yard, most of the time it's gonna be pretty rough when you get it. So knock those splinters out, get those rough edges off of there. It doesn't take very long.
All right, now that you have everything cut to size and sanded, let's talk about this pocket hole jig real quick. I'm not going to get into like super duper detail, but like I said, it's made by Kreg, Kreg. You want to set this to the thickness of your board, which in this case it's 1.5 inches, and then you also want to set the collar on the bit that comes with it to also that thickness, which is 1.5. And they have a little gauge on here that will help you set that. The other adjustment is you may have to adjust this a little bit so that the board is tight up against there. So let's make some pocket holes.
So as far as using the jig, it's pretty standard stuff. I mean, you set the board in there, basically in what direction you want the screws to go. run that drill bit down. I'm putting 2 or 3 holes in each one of these, just for stability, just to hold it. But I mean, all in all, the jig works pretty well. Alright, so once all your holes are drilled here, you want to make sure everything's square, and then I typically use just a regular drill. I feel like that works better than trying to use an impact. Sometimes when you're using an impact, it'll kind of push the board up or down, and it makes it kind of hard to control that way. So here we're finding the middle of the door so that we can get this middle rail in. This kind of goes with that whole adage of, measure twice, cut once. You want to make sure you get this, in the right place. And I'm going to go ahead and slide that in, and you'll also see I'm going to grab a clamp here. Using clamps to hold this stuff in place is not a bad idea, so if you got them, might as well use them. Same thing here at the end. Go ahead and use clamps if you got them. Make sure you keep those, nice and straight and flush. Check for square. Get it as close as you can, and just drive those screws in. Once they drive all the way in, then stop. There's no reason to run them all the way through the board.
All right, so we got the framing together. You didn't see it, but I did put a little glue on the ends. Same thing I did with the dowels. Put some glue on there. So we're gonna let that glue dry. While it's setting up and drying, here's a word from today's sponsor.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Oh, I totally forgot that I am today's sponsor, because I bought all the materials and all the tools I'm using. I bought. Okay, well, back to work.
Alright, so here, the next step is I used quarter round. It was basically 1/2 inch by 3/4 of an inch, just like I did on the other door. I chose to, miter the corners. It takes a little bit longer, to do it that way, but I feel like in the end, it was well worth it. Gives it a better look. If you don't want to use quarter round, there's other trim and stuff that you could use where you possibly don't have to miter the corners. So anyway, you can do it any way that you wish. Okay, so from here you can see that we already got the quarter round on the other side, which is basically there just to hold the plywood panel. For the plywood panel, I actually bought, I think they were like 2 foot by 4 foot panels. Made it a little bit easier instead of buying, the regular 4 by 8 sheet. But once again, you can do it, how you feel you want to. But also too, if you noticed, for each one of these, I basically I get it to the corner, and then I measure it kind of by eye and mark it, and then cut it. I know you can use your tape measure to measure it, but I find this method easier. Alright, so that panel is done, and now we got one more.
Alright folks, so there's basically the front of the door. Here's the panels. Quarter round is in. Looks good, but we got one issue. Let me show it to you. All right, so because we took the easy way out instead of doing dowels or something like that, we got these pocket holes now that we need to fill on the back side of the door to make it look good. We're gonna do our best to see if we can make it pretty seamless, so let's get on it.
So basically here, you can use a dowel rod to fill those holes, and then just use a flat saw to cut them off, and try to make it as clean as possible. We're going to do this with every single pocket hole. The one thing that I'm hoping for here is to really fill the hole as much as possible, but try to make it as inconspicuous as possible. I don't know if that's really going to happen or not, but we're going to try our best. So after you're done filling all the holes, it's time to give it another good sanding. And like I said, it really makes a difference, smoothing all that out. Like I said, we're going to try to make it look as good as we possibly can.
Alright, so got the holes filled. I mean, it looks alright. I don't know if you can kind of see it there. I'm not even looking at it. I don't know if you can see it. Let me flip you around. Okay, now you can see a little bit better. So, I mean, it does fill the hole. I mean, there's a little bit of gap there. I mean, I could take some wood putty and fill that in, but for what it is and what it's going to be, I mean, eventually this door is actually probably going to get removed, so I don't know. I may just fill it with some wood putty and get ready for stain. All right, so I filled kind of the gaps in there with some wood putty. Hopefully once that's sanded, then maybe those pocket holes won't be so noticeable. So we'll see. So we're gonna let that dry, and then we'll give it another sanding, and then it'll be ready for stain. All right, so got the wood putty sanded, and it did fill in, these gaps like around here. So hopefully these won't be as noticeable. I'm gonna stain this door, so I'm gonna use a wood conditioner. Hopefully that'll help kind of let that stain soak in there. I mean, I'm sure it's probably gonna still be noticeable, but maybe just not as bad. So let's get to it.
All right, so here we're putting on the wood conditioner. When I first started doing some of this stuff, when I would stain, I wouldn't use a wood conditioner, and I tell you what, you can really tell the difference in the finished product when you stain it. But I mean, just follow the directions on the can. It's pretty easy. I choose to wipe mine on just like I do my stain, but you can also brush it on as well. I've seen people use foam brushes too, and it works just as well. But like I said, just follow the directions, let it do its thing, and then just kind of wipe off any extra that still may be on there that didn't soak into the wood. And we're going to do this on the other side too. I'm not going to show you all that just because it would get pretty repetitive, but so the second thing is always make sure your stain, even if it's brand new, make sure that you stir it really well and get it all mixed up really well. And also when you stain, try as much as you can to go with the grain of the wood. Another thing too is just to get a nice layer of stain on there. I've seen people that basically just kind of dump the whole can of stain on there and then just kind of spread it around, but to me that's pretty wasteful, because anything that doesn't get soaked up into the wood you're just going to wipe off anyway. So once again, follow the instructions on the can. I don't let mine sit for very long. Usually when I get done with whatever I'm staining, then I almost immediately go ahead and wipe it off, especially if you're not looking for a real dark look, which I'm not. So
All right, there it is, stained together, put together, ready to be hung. That'll be probably the next video. Gotta get this hung up, get some doorknobs and handles and hardware and stuff like that on there. So that's going to do it for this video. Hope you liked it and enjoyed it. A couple things that I learned from this is, one, the pocket holes, doing the pocket holes is easier. It did not take nearly as long as using the dowels did. Now I know other joinery may be faster, like, you know, the biscuits or dominoes or, you know, whatever, but it was easier. But it does leave those pocket hole marks on one side or the other. They're kind of hard to hide. I mean, I kind of felt like I did everything that I could to kind of hide them, but they still kind of stick out. So I guess if it's on the back of the door, it's not that bad, and it's not on the front. The other thing that I should have done was on the two long parts of the frame, on one side of them I should have ran it through the table saw and taken like that factory kind of like rounded edge off. I think it would have looked better if it would have been, you know, straight edge to straight edge. So I'll remember that for the next time. But anyway, we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.